Here's the mission history for the first week of June, brought to us by Pastor James Huang. All right, let's jump right in.
So, let me ask you a question. When you think about Protestant missions in Korea, when do you think they really began? What's the first date that pops into your head?
Yeah, for most people, the date that comes to mind is April 5th, 1885. And that makes sense, right? That's the day the famous missionary Horace Underwood landed, which is kind of seen as the official start of it all. But what if I told you the real story? The very first seeds were actually planted more than 50 years before that. We're about to talk about a man whose visit was so short, it's almost been forgotten. But the legacy it left? Well, no one could have seen that coming. Okay, so let's get into it. The man's name was Karl Gutzlaff, and his journey is, well, it's pretty incredible. It took him all the way from Germany to the shores of what was then the Joseon dynasty, a kingdom pretty much closed off to the world. You know, Gutzlaff's whole path was really shaped by his time at Halle University in Germany. It was a real hotbed of pietism. He felt this call to be a missionary pretty early on. And a huge inspiration for him was the legendary Robert Morrison, the first Protestant missionary to ever go to China. So Gutzlaff starts his own work in places like Java and Singapore, but he's always kind of looking for that next door to open. And then, in 1832, an opportunity just sort of falls into his lap.
And that opportunity? It was a ship. A British East India Company ship called the Lord Amherst. Now, its official mission was to survey the Korean coast, to see if they could open up trade. But for Gutzlaff, well, he saw something else entirely. He saw his chance.
So he gets himself on board by signing up as the ship's interpreter and doctor. Super practical, right? It was his ticket in. And just as he was about to leave, his mentor, Robert Morrison, gives him this stack of Bibles written in Chinese. And he tells him, share these with the people of Joseon. A huge task, considering the kingdom was basically locked down. Okay, so fast forward to July 1832. The Lord Amherst drops anchor at this tiny island off the coast called Godiado. And this is where it all starts. This is where Gutzlaff's completely unexpected 17-day mission kicks off.
And this is where things get really interesting, Gutzlaff's approach was so different. He didn't just stand there and preach at people. No, he shared practical knowledge that could actually change their lives. He taught them how to grow potatoes, of all things, and how to make wine from the wild grapes growing around them. But the biggest thing? He actually worked with a local scholar, and together they translated the Lord's Prayer into Korean. The first time ever.
But then, just as quickly as it started, it was over. After only 17 days, word comes from the Joseon government. The answer is no trade. The ship was ordered to leave immediately. And just like that, Gutzlaff had to go, with nothing to show for it. I mean, not a single convert, no tangible results. From the outside, it looked like a total, complete failure.
But Gutzlaff himself, his faith was just unshakable. Can you picture it? As the ship is sailing away, leaving the coast of Joseon behind, he stands on the deck and just offers this incredibly powerful prayer. He says he's confident that his message will bear fruit. He believed, truly believed, that even though it looked like a failure, the seeds he planted would one day, somehow, grow.
So, was that it? Just a weird 17-day blip in history with no real impact? Not even close. The story is far from over.
Okay, so this is the crucial part. This is the ripple effect. What looked like a failure actually became the spark for all the success that came later. See, Gutzlaff went on to write a detailed report about his trip, and he basically made this passionate case for why a mission was so desperately needed in Joseon. Now, he died in 1851, probably thinking his trip meant nothing. But decades later, two other missionaries in China, John Ross and McIntyre, get their hands on his report. They read it, and it lights a fire under them. It's what directly inspires them to start their own work, and that work is what eventually leads to the first full Korean New Testament. The seed Gutzlaff planted, it had finally sprouted.
It's just an amazing story, isn't it? It really makes you think about how we measure impact, about what legacy even means. It's not always about the big, immediate results that you can see right away. Sometimes it's about planting a seed, maybe without even knowing it, that someone else will come along and harvest years or even decades down the road.
So, this piece of history was brought to you by Pastor James Huang. After serving as a missionary in China, he now serves in Maryland, USA. He's a researcher of Korean mission history and is also the author of Remember and Repay, 52 Weeks of Mission Meditation, which he shares on a weekly basis.